If they do win, they would knock out Ateneo and they would be the first runner-up. If Ateneo does manage to get this win, they will manage to bring this game to a Game 4 and hopefully maybe a Game 5.
And hopefully maybe a Game 5. So we're going to go to pick and bans in just a second. And I just want to thank everybody who has supported RGL and us as casters, because honestly, your love and support has really meant the world to us. Thank you so much for your compliments, for your constructive advice. Also, one thing to take into consideration. And once again, just thanks for watching. And like and follow the Rappler Gaming League's Facebook page in case you haven't known, because a lot of you guys have asked us whether or not we're going to have future tournaments and future events, and yes, we do plan to do so. So please follow the Rappler Gaming League's Facebook page and stay up to date for all of these things.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a few shoutouts that were submitted in the chat box. So the first shoutout is from 0 Kills to Danzen. And the second shoutout's from Ilo. And the third shoutout's from Magni Fail Blitzho.
A failed blitz. So that's coming from 0 Kills also. So 0 Kills does make a shout out to Danzen. Zen is such a cutie. He is playing as the jungler for the Azure Eagles right now. And Magni, I don't know who that is. Who is that player?
Don't ask me.
Don't ask me. So guys, once again, if you have any more shoutouts and questions, please do send it into the chat box and we'll try to catch it up for you. Hopefully, we'll be able to make a personal Twitter account so you guys can direct questions at us, because I have missed a lot of your questions, a lot of your comments, and your shoutouts. So hopefully we'll be able to fix that for you guys. So stay tuned.
We're gonna go into the pick and ban phase right now.
And this was something I wanted to talk about earlier, but I didn't feel like I could talk about it unless it was picked. So let's go to the pick and ban phase, because we see that the bans coming in for the Azure Eagles are the Mordekaiser, the Elise, and the Rek'Sai. So that definitely was a ban because of the first 2 games, because Squirtle has been playing that Rek'Sai phenomenally throughout those games, and now they want it out of his system.
The Fiora is still being banned, so I don't think we're gonna see Fiora for any of these games, even if this game drags on to the next game. Darius is still open though, so it's a very strong top laner that might be picked.
And we see that the Tahm Kench is being hovered over in the Viridis Arcus side. They're probably getting a little bit of cold feet because now they're hovering over the Veigar. Now, let's talk about the Veigar if they do pick it, because that is something that we've been talking about in the context of League of Legends World Championship, because Veigar has been a surprise yet consistent pick and ban so far.
Yeah, Veigar has had multiple small buffs coming into this patch and is actually really strong right now. The utility of his stun is just so huge that it sets up a lot of clashes and a lot of sieges really well, because you'll have to avoid a lot of those zoning potential from Veigar. Otherwise, you can just get wombo comboed or you can get insta-killed by a lot of their members.
With that AoE. So now, let's see the picks that these teams actually did lock in. We see the Lulu, the Kog'Maw, and the Morgana already picked, and now the last 2 picks of the Azure Eagles are being hovered over right now. It is the Hecker and the Yasuo, and the 4 picks that were already secured by Viridis Arcus is the Sivir, the Alistar, the Veigar, and the Tahm Kench. Imagine the combination of the Alistar being able to land that headbutt pulverized combination with the Veigar following through with that AoE stun. It's gonna be insane if they're able to pull that off, guys.
We can see AZE's Kog'Maw pick right now. So they really want a lot of late game pressure, and it seems like Tano is really fond of these late game scaling ADRs, but it hasn't been so successful recently. And we can see Fupi also playing his Hecarim, which he's one of his most comfortable champions.
A comfort pick, definitely.
In top lane.
And now they locked in the Evelynn as the jungler, one of my favorites right now. She hasn't been played very often considering all the buffs that other champions have been receiving so far. So that's going to be interesting, the Evelynn pick, and how they're going to utilize it as much as they can.
It's actually a Poppy pick, Poppy
Whoa!
top lane, which is really interesting because we haven't seen Poppy in the longest time.
In the longest time.
Even in solo queue, she barely get played, and now we see her in top lane actually.
But Poppy has one of the best late game scaling as a champion. It's not seen often, guys, but believe the stats. She is really strong late game, and we're going to see how she's going to play out in terms of the laning phases. Like I said, she actually has a difficult time during the laning phase, considering not only that she's melee, but she's very confrontational in terms of her skills. So it's kind of hard for her to be passive in that aspect.
Yeah, I think this Poppy pick is gonna be really strong against Kog'Maw because with her ultimate, she's not gonna be able to be bursted down at all by any of the members. And with this Sivir pickup, he's gonna have a really easy time going after the Kog'Maw, which is gonna be one of the only damage threats in this AZE comp. And if you manage to kill this Kog'Maw, it's gonna be all over. It's basically running the Juggermouth comp that was popularized by the Coup Tigers earlier in this season. So it's gonna be interesting. If they manage to shut down this Kog'Maw, their team will collapse. But if Kog'Maw manages to get through all of these zoning and ults, they will be able to make the damage count.
But imagine how the games are going to play out with the On the Hunt being unleashed. They're going to be a walking battle tank with the Poppy using her ultimate, with even the Tahm Kench and the Alistar providing all that peel for not only the Sivir but the Veigar.
Definitely, and the Sivir pickup isn't so bad in relation to AZE's team comp because they only have one true tank, which is gonna be probably Hecarim. Evelyn's gonna be tanky, but she's not gonna be a true
complete tank.
So Sivir will still be doing damage. And in relation to other comps, usually we see Sivir being low damage because
she's more of a utility,
more of a utility comp. Champion, but in this situation, she's gonna be doing some work since a lot of their members are gonna be squishy.
Would you have wanted to swap out the Sivir with maybe a Kalista?
Possibly for
right?
more hard
That's what
engage.
I was thinking. With hypothetically, if they did have the Kalista, they could use Fate's Call, for example.
Yeah, but it really depends on the synergy of this top laner and the Sivir, and if they manage to get efficient rotations around the map, they will be able to have a substantial advantage over AZE. And AZE is really relying on their late game scaling. So if they get shut down in the early game, it's going to be really hard for them to catch up.
Exactly. That's probably one of the only changes I would make if I could on the lineup for Viridis Arcus. But other than that, I am scared of their team composition right now. It has an element of what's unexpected because of the Poppy pick, but other than that, phenomenal lineup. And let's talk about the lineup for Azure Eagles for a while. What do you feel like is out of place? If you could change something, what would you change?
I feel like Evelyn should be.
I was surprised by the
pick.
Evelyn pick. Don't get me wrong. I am surprised by that.
Yeah, supposedly I think Gragas would be better in this situation because their priority really is to peel for Kog'Maw in these fights, and Gragas provides a huge amount of peel with that explosive cast. And Evelyn is really more picked for her flanking power, and in this case, you already have Hecarim to do that, and you don't really have much members that benefit from a good flank. So I think a different jungler would have been best.
So that is your issue with the team composition of Azure Eagles, and I agree with you, and you agree with me with my slight problem with the Viridis Arcus team composition. So let's see how they're going to be playing out. Now we can talk about lane matchups. So we see the Hecarim and the Poppy. Now, like we mentioned, we don't see Poppy too often, but then she does have a difficult time during the laning phase, especially prior hitting to level 6. She has a hard time farming.
Yeah.
Kind of like a Malphite, if I have to be honest.
Yeah, but Poppy is really strong, I think, against Hecarim. Because Hecarim, when he gets his Triforce, has a lot of burst, and that's what he's known for his engage and burst. But Poppy's passive actually negates almost all burst by cutting it directly in half. So in a way, Poppy has a small edge against Hecarim in this specific matchup. And usually, the reason why we don't see Poppy getting picked a lot also is because true damage counters her a lot, such as Olaf and even other champions like Darius. So in this situation where
that
AZE,
was banned though, if I'm not mistaken.
If AZE doesn't have any of these true damage and relies on a small amounts of burst, I think Poppy is really good pick in this situation.
Exactly. So unexpected, though probably the best pick they could have had at the moment. And now let's go to the mid lane. We have the Lulu versus the Veigar. The Lulu is a relatively safe pick against the Veigar and all the burst damage. But can you imagine the passive that the Veigar has and all that additional ability power that's just going to stack up? They definitely don't want to get him rolling.
Yeah, definitely. But at the same time, it's not going to be as punishing in the late game because AZDE doesn't have super AP mages that are gonna have huge amounts of AP.
And the Dark Binding does land, and will they be able to pursue this fight a little bit longer? A few taps coming in from Celestial Mikos right now, and the Dark Binding does land once again, and they do want to get a kill. Both the heal and the flash was blown, and the first blood does go in favor of Fupi. Zen is such a cute, he almost died, and he had to blow his flash as he was headbutted to the tower. And once again, another Dark Binding, just a souvenir for Viridis Arcus in memory of their fallen team member.
So it looks like the tables have turned. AZE manages to get the first blood in this game, and ends up having a small lead right now in the early game.
That was a really good teamwork coming in from Azure Eagles. So we're going to see if that will carry over to the other stages of this game. Right now, we see that they did experience that gold lead, and if they're going to capitalize on all the advantages that come with it.
Yeah, and right now, they're just gonna go back to standard laning phases. I think the mid-game power spike from Viridis Arcus is gonna be slightly stronger than AZE, and they have to worry about when this Sivir gets her ultimate. It's gonna be a really good opportunity for them to roam, and they have to react to that accordingly.
So they are, if I'm not mistaken, they're going to do a double jungle at top lane. We see that both General Articuno and Squirtle are joining together. We see that the Wolf camp, if I'm not mistaken, was taken by Fupi to reach to that level 2.
This is a little bit, I think it's gonna be a little bit of a hard matchup for Veigar in mid lane.
I think so.
Because Lulu has a lot of utility that can stop that stun damage.
And to harass on her own.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little bit hard unless Squirtle does apply a bit more jungle pressure into the mid lane.
Exactly. So right now we see that standard lanes, I didn't expect any lane swap. It didn't happen in any of the previous games. Wouldn't expect it to happen now. Once again, another Dark Binding, and Celestial Mikos is just playing out of his mind. Somebody take him to the asylum, please. He's just losing it right now.
And it seems like in the top lane, this Poppy is doing pretty well, not doing a lot of damage from the Hex.
Oh, and there is another gank coming in, but the spell shield was planted just in time, so that Dark Binding was basically going to hit him, but the spell shield was perfectly timed, and Tristan, for a little bit more reassurance, landed that pulverize, 3-man pulverize.
Yeah, Celestial Miko is really good at these bindings, but the Ako si Panalo managed to do that spell shield really easily. Oh, but Evelyn is coming back again.
Basically, everything repeated. Basically, there was a Dark Binding, practically like a homing device onto the Sivir, but the spell shield did prevent it from happening, and yet another. But Celestial Mikos just says, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna throw in any bindings I can, and I'm gonna land it every single time. Amazing.
And it seems that we're gonna have an interview for you guys to see about Mikos and how about him as a player.
Will the Ignite be able to take him down? I don't think so, but there was a perfectly executed flash from the King of Motos, securing that kill for himself. So right now, the scoreboard 2-0 in favor of the Azure Eagles. And like what Taktu mentioned earlier, we have a video for you guys, and I'm gonna calm myself down in the process.
I would usually check if we could harass them or we could try to poke them out of the lane so that to avoid them from getting any CS. I really just like to harass and kill the people from the opposite bot lane during laning phase.
Yeah, and here you see that it was really flashy play from Lulu. Of course, we're talking about Veigar being really weak at the start against the Lulu, but later on to this game, when Veigar does manage to get the level 6, it's gonna be a lot harder for Lulu to fight back.
We see there is a rotation now coming in from Zen, and they might possibly make it a tower dive at bot lane with Sivir at less than half health. There is a ward though, but you have to remember the passive of the Evelynn, the Shadow Walk, and that might be. But Fury Warrior does make a rotation, and that basically prompts his bot lane to play a little bit safer at this point.
Yeah, and right now it seems like the bot lane is really getting pushed into their tower and isn't really getting punished for it. In fact, it was Evelynn that's managing to get multiple ganks off bot lane, even though there's the ones that are extended.
Exactly, and I think that's one of the benefits right now to having this Alistar, with the exception of his support item. His Triumphant Roar is able to give a little bit more sustain for the Sivir, because let's face it, she's been taking a beating from that Kog'Maw.
Yeah, definitely. And right now, they might get punished even more on their tower. Of course, Skirtle being on Tahm Kench is a bit weak pre-6, because you literally have to walk towards your opponent.
You literally have to walk
in order to get your utility off during ganks. So he's gonna be a little bit weaker at the start, but once he reaches 6, he can instantly have 4-man ganks out of nowhere, and that's gonna be a lot harder for them to deal with.
So that is the compromise you have by playing Tahm Kench as the jungler, because despite the fact that Zen is such a cutie who's playing Evelynn right now, has been ganking a lot, especially at bot lane, he is not suffering from any CS deficit against Skirtle. Another thing to take into consideration.
Yeah, he should really be punished for a lot of this counter jungling by Skirtle invading his jungle once he sees Evelynn in these ganks. Because if you see your enemy jungler in the bot lane and doing a gank and you can't respond to it, might as well take his opposing camps in order to punish a lot of the resources in that regards.
So similar to what you mentioned earlier of how Poppy is actually a counter pick against the Hecarim, it is showing in terms of the CS, and that might be a conversation for later, because Celestial Migos was punished for being a little bit too cheeky. Tenno trying to take out as much health from Acosi Panalo, but it did not work. So that was a perfectly planted, pulverized, and headbutt towards the tower to the death for Celestial Migos. Let's have a replay. Go ahead.
So here you can see Celestial Migos and Tenno. He does, Acosi Panalo blocks the slow from it, and he does land the binding, but he's extending too far out, takes a turret shot consistently, and that's when Tristram pushes him back. The heal's just not enough.
Tenno did blow the heal, trying to save his partner in crime, but no, he went to jail for that. And right now, let's see if they've been playing a little bit too aggressive right now, and even though you mentioned earlier how they weren't necessarily punished for it by, let's say, Skirtle or the Tahm Kench, they were punished for it by their enemy bot lane, for example. They just had enough of it.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a misplay coming from Celestial Migos. He actually tanked a tower shot before the binding even landed. So the Alistar was able to knock him up, and the tower shot was just consistent and instantly blew him out. And the boomerang even hit him after chain CC'd, and it was just over once that tower and that pulverize hit.
Exactly. So right now we are 8 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock. The scoreboard 2-1, still in favor though of the Azure Eagles, who are experiencing a little less than 1k of a gold lead. So nothing too much for Viridis Arcus to worry about at this point.
And I think AZE is trying to adapt in this game. If you notice, Migos hasn't been trying to do any of these roams, because I think in a way they realized that even though Migos was getting kills, Tenno was severely behind, and they tend to rely on Tenno in a lot of these clashes.
And now they do want to pinch Acosi Panalo. Will they be able to land a bind? But there are teleports right now coming in from both the top laners at this point. So the Hecarim does go in for the dive, and the exhaust is used, but she was forced to blow her flash. General Articuno using her ultimate, and she wants to get Tenno. They're able to go and get Tristram, if I'm not mistaken. They do. So now it is an ADR for a support, and now General Articuno wanting to make it a double kill for himself, but now he has to make it out as much as possible, because now they're trying to collapse on him. Even King of Motos is making his way, so even though there was a failed Tormented Soil and Dark Binding. Now he's trying to make it an execution, but it
not
doesn't
enough.
matter. And that kill does go to Celestial Miko. So that was a 2-for-1 trade in favor of the Azure Eagles. Great teleports coming in from both teams, but a lot of peel, such that a lot of the damage that was coming in from Viridis Arcus was distributed more throughout the members of the Azure Eagles, and that put them on top.
Yeah, and Poppy trying to execute herself there wasn't really a good idea, because even though Miko's missed the binding, he hit the soil. So that wasn't nearly enough time for the execute damage.
Exactly. So right now, like what you mentioned earlier, Azure Eagles is being more adaptive with their playstyle, because we did mention earlier of how that is the signature playstyle of Celestial Miko, being an aggressive support, trying to roam as much as he can, but he is adapting for this particular game and not roaming as much, but instead using all of his skills in terms of skill shots and making his lane win, basically.
Yeah, and I think in unlike the previous games wherein they tried to get different advantages across the map and ends up sacrificing Tenno, I think in this game they're trying to adapt and actually have a game wherein they'll try to babysit Tenno into the late game and see if they can push that advantage later on.
Exactly. So right now, let's take a look at the CS deficit, because initially it was Fupi that was experiencing the CS deficit against General Articuno, but now he is up on CS, almost 20 CS. He is at 83 versus the 64 of General Articuno, and right now we see there is going to be a collapse at mid lane with Celestial Mikos and Zenith such a cutie behind the shadows.
Yeah, Mikos can actually have this roam because he saw Alistar there, so there's no way they can punish the bot lane aggressively. So it's reactive-very roam coming from Mikos.
Exactly, and now they want to take on Fury Warrior, and will they be able to do so? But they might just settle for his pet by his side. No, but there was a stun coming in, and Celestial Mikos is punished for it, and now it might be an even collapse over Fupi. We see Skirtle trying to land in the slow, and it does land, and a follow-up stun coming in from General Articuno, basically getting the kill for himself.
Mikos also misplayed again there, but it seems like the clash isn't done. They're trying to get another kill. Poppy trying to go for it, but gets severely low, and it looks like she's gonna die. Motus gets the kill. Tristam pulverizes to get out, and he does still fall to Zen.
So that was a 3-for-1 trade in favor of the Azure Eagles. That was a great play. A Viridis Arcus should have been content with that, but no, they decided to push on further. But no, he does blow his last, trying to use the slow, and it does work. King of Motos also, if I'm not mistaken, blew his last, trying to keep Tenno alive as much as possible. It does not work, but they might still be able to get revenge over Skirtle, and I think they will be able to do so because the Wild Growth gives them enough shield as he needs, and a shield for a shield because he got a black shield.
Motus should have tried to block that tongue lash from Tom Kench. It was quite unfortunate. And here you can see Tenno looked like he was almost done, but Motus sidesteps instead of trying to block the path of the only offensive spell of Tom Kench that's ranged. So it's a little bit of a misplay there. He could have saved both of the members at the end.
Exactly. So right now, Dragon has been up for a while now. There is a ward that is planted on the side of the Viridis Arcus, none yet for the Azure Eagles. And right now we see that the CS lead of Fupi has been consistently growing, and with the exception of the supports, all the members of Azure Eagles are experiencing a CS lead, even if it's just 1 or 2 right now.
And there's even a 2k gold advantage for AZE right now.
And now they might be able to kill Celestial Mikos. No, they do not pursue it, but that was interesting. It was a headbutt and then a pulverize combo.
Yeah, and
pretty interesting.
Right now, there is gonna be a camp. Skirtle
both the junglers are there, and will but Zenith Suchiguti did not see him in time, and Tenno being a little bit too friendly with a fellow animal. Soul Shackles does land, and it does plant onto Tristam. There is a teleport coming in from Fupi, and will it even matter? Skirtle has slain Tenno, but it might not even matter because Fupi does able to get Tristam right now. There is a rotation coming in from the mid laners. Zenith Such a Cutie is now on a killing spree, and they're trying to collapse on General Articuno, and they're able to do so. So that was a 4-for-1 trade in favor of the Azure Eagles. That was just perfect peeling for all the carries basically of the Azure Eagles. I don't know if you noticed that, but the teleports came in and Fupi just basically messed them up, and all the members of Viridis Arcus did not know who to prioritize. So even though there were members of the Azure Eagles that were at low health, there was no focus point anymore.
Yeah, Azure Eagles played that really well, and it seems like Viridis Arcus was a little bit lost in that game. They managed to make the Kog'Maw out of position, but at the same time, when Poppy teleported, he tried to ironically go after Celestial Mikos, who was the support, and you don't really want to prioritize a lot of your damage there. And while he was chasing Mikos, they were able to get the other members.
So right now, they want to take a little bit of control into the game, and they will most likely take this dragon without any contestation, and that is the case. So the first dragon of the game does go to Viridis Arcus, but even if they get the dragon, Azure Eagles are still experiencing that lead, that advantage that's just been piling up since first blood practically.
Yeah, it's now a 3k gold lead, and Tenno is reaching farther and further into the game, and if he gets into that late game, it'll be easier for them. It's around 6k gold lead right now, and if Viridis Arcus doesn't do anything, Tenno is just gonna ramp up in damage, and I'm not sure if Veigar is gonna be enough to one-shot him in the late game, especially since it's not gonna be near enough. This Kog'Maw pick.
The Kog'Maw does have his core item complete. He does have his Trinity Force right now, so that is something you cannot take lightly anymore.
And right now, Veigar has actually had a lot of farm. Even though he's down, this 115 CS does play a huge role into his AP scaling. And Lulu having this
403.
Yeah.
I did not expect, I didn't even notice all those kills piling up on Lulu's favor.
Yeah, but even though Lulu is 403, she can get one-shotted later on to the game. So we'll just have to see how the game turns out. It's a really good play from Atenea right now. They do have the lead, but they have to make sure to keep this lead and not waste it later.
That is really beneficial that a lot of those kills did go to King of Motos, because if I'm not mistaken, but that might be a conversation for later because they want to take General Articuno, but there is a strategic pause, question mark? I'm not sure. But with that pause coming in, I'm going to talk about what I wanted to mention earlier. It is beneficial that a lot of those kills actually rack in favor of King of Motos, because if I'm not mistaken, he did build the Holy Grail first, and more often than not, when your mid laner completes at first, you compromise the amount of burst damage that you're able to give earlier on, but that's quickly compensated with all the kills and assists that he was able to get for himself, and now he has a needlessly large rod and the amplifying tome at his disposal.
Definitely, and here back into the game, it seems like Fupi is gonna take so much damage. He does manage to die. General Luna also
General Luna?
I mean, sorry.
General Articuno, guys. But yes, that was an amazing movie, guys.
But it's not actually done yet.
Saving his AD carry by swallowing him practically whole, and now the headbutt pulverize does land. King of Motos was able to still secure the kill using Wild Growth on himself, and they do want to take this game to the ends of the earth, and they're trying to collapse onto Tristam, so his unbreakable will doesn't even matter, and now they want sushi for dinner, and they're going to kill Kench. And they do, and it is a double kill. Coming in for Zen is such a cutie. There are a few pings coming in from the Azure Eagles to top lane and mid lane. So now Fupi wants to save the first tier mid and turret right now.
16-7 right now with AZE leading hugely. They're trying to gank Fiery Warrior, but this stun is gonna hold them at bay for now. And I think this is one of the problems that Viridis Arcus is experiencing, because in the past few games, they were so used to having early jungle pressure. They were so used to having a lot of these early game champions, even for their other lanes. And right now, when they have to sacrifice that early game, it seems like they're finding a harder foothold to get into this game.
Something I want to point out is the fact that Azure Eagles have been making more plays this game. for the first 2 games, they've been very reactive, to say the least. Oh, but King of Motos wants to take down Fury Warrior, and he will be able to end the Wild Growth, thus keep him healthy enough. So despite the fact that Skirtle was by his side, there was nothing more that he could do than watch his teammate die. Celestial Miko's being, in my opinion, staying a little bit too long, using the Black Shield on himself. The slow doesn't even land, or I'm not sure if it did. Now that I'm taking a look at it, it didn't land. And the Dark Binding landing once again. And now Zen is such a cutie, trying to take in for a flank. I'm not sure if they're aware of this. The Soul Shackle does land, and Zen is such a cutie does use, if I'm not mistaken, his Agony's Embrace. But he might have overcommitted to that because he does not even die, but Celestial Mikos does. So that was a sacrificial lamb sacrifice at that point.
8 is to 8, and they will be able to get this bot tier turret if they so choose. Oh wait, they actually get a response from Veigar, who is already alive and manages to get Tenno, and the kill switch is now 18 is to 9.
So I feel like they overstayed their welcome at that point with Tenno's death, but other than that, that was a winning trade in favor of the Azure Eagles. Now Baron is live, Dragon is gonna be up in less than 2 minutes. Azure Eagles have yet to take an objective for themselves, so let's see if they are going to do that. There is a lack of wards though from them, because they don't have any wards on either Baron nor Dragon right now.
Yeah, and another thing to note is the itemization. Poppy has a Triforce right now, and Hecarim doesn't have one yet. So this might be a slight saving grace for Viridis Arcus if they manage to play around the Poppy. But it seems like at this point, Lulu is so ahead right now. He has so many kills, seven kills already. And with this advantage, not only does she add damage to the team comp because the other members of Viridis Arcus isn't tanky enough yet, but she also adds the amount of utility increases with her AP because of her ult. And right now in mid lane, it seems like Zen is trying to get a gank of Fiery Warrior, and he does land the stun, so he does manage to make it out alive.
But he did blow a flash, so still a great effort on that part.
And right now, with Fiery Warrior backing and Sivir also backing, they will be able to try to make the siege happen. The recall. Oh, but Skirtle does have sufficient wave clear to stop this wave. So just a little bit of love taps to the tower.
A little bit of love taps, huh? And now we see that, oh, Zen is such a cutie, is behind enemy lines. He does use his W to escape, but General Articuno, not Luna, does want a piece of it. But he might actually die because the Wild Growth does keep Zen as such a cutie healthy, and he is godlike. And now they're trying to go and tower dive and collapse onto Skirtle. King of Motos is also godlike. They have 2 gods on their team. They are practically Mount Olympus at this point. There's another kill coming in. Sivir does manage to rake up 2 kills, but 3 of her teammates died.
It is a 3-for-2 trade coming from Viridis Arcus, losing that trade. And it seems like Skirtle misplayed. Oh, but that has to wait because I think Mikos is gonna end up dying. Oh, but he does survive, manages to dodge the Q. And it is Fiery Warrior that ends up dying. But again, like I was talking a while ago, Skirtle accidentally used his Devour on the Raptor instead of Zen at that moment. And it's really unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and we're going to have to see what Viridis Arcus is going to do right now, because honestly, they have just been a beat behind Azure Eagles at this point.
And here's a replay of what happened. Fiery Warrior does miss, and Morgana ends up living, but the utility of speed buff and damage from Kog'Maw just ended up securing that kill.
Exactly. So right now, Azure Eagles has twice the amount of kills that Viridis Arcus has at this point, and they're experiencing at least an 8k gold lead. That is substantial this early on in the game.
Definitely. And if you look at the gold lead per champion, you can see how much gold is distributed per champion. So we can see that Lulu has around 3k gold lead on her own against Veigar, and with Kog'Maw having almost all of their members having a slight gold lead against their Viridis Arcus counterpart.
another thing to take into
Poppy.
is another gank coming in, and General Articuno will fall to Fupi or Zen is such a cutie if the ultimate does wear off, and it did. And there is another clash happening at mid lane. We see Celestial Mikos will probably try to land a Dark Binding, and it does land in the midst of all those creeps. How is that possible? And Tenno getting a little bit too friendly, trying to use his passive against Tristan. Still low health, but Zen is such a cutie. Might actually have the guts to tower dive right now. I think he will, and he does do it. He does have the guts, and he even is trying to get Fury Warrior with the Wild Growth supporting him by his side, and it is a triple kill. Him even using his flash just to make sure he gets out safely, and that was phenomenal. We had our doubts for the Evelyn pick, but I'm not doubting anything now. I am an embarrassed Judas right now.
Oh, and
Thomas,
we can see
sorry.
a replay right now where Tenno does die, but then they do try to hold them back as much as possible. Zen manages to kill Tristan because the other members were quite far from them, and the Lulu ult just ends up CCing them, and once they get out, Zen just wipes the face of their faces on the ground.
Exactly, and right now, this is the game for Azure Eagles to lose because they have been playing so cleanly and so differently compared to the first two matches they had. It's almost unbelievable. And now Zen is such a cutie, is so strong that he has no qualms about going onto enemy lines, and he might actually regret that at this point, but his other members have come to the rescue with the Black Shield coming just in time. But he might have stayed a little bit too long, and it is a shutdown.
Yeah,
for
so
Zen
they end up giving 500 gold to the opposing side. I think Zen was a little bit over-aggressive in that situation, especially since people just died. Oh, Mikas gets insta-gived by Veigar, and Fupi tries to go on for the kill. Skirtle does end up dying, and now they're trying to go for this siege. They are missing one member, and it looks like they will be able to get this tower.
The second-tier mid-tower of Viridis Arcus. And to be honest right now, I feel like although, with King of Moses does take in a lot of damage for the Veigar. And here's the thing, despite the fact that they are experiencing a really significant lead right now, they should not play carelessly, because although they have been getting all these kills, you have to understand the strength that the team composition of Viridis Arcus inherently has. You cannot simply discount them. And as soon as you're caught out, then you will most likely die, because they can just pile on as soon as they're able to land a few kills. But Cipanalo will probably die trying to get in a few kills for himself. I don't know why he was there.
Oh, but then King of Motas gets insta-gived by Veigar. Tenno is left on his own devices. Tristan does manage to get stunned, and Tenno trying to get the kill. Whoa, it's a really good kill from Zen. And they're trying to get away with Skirtle carrying the Alistar away, and Fupi goes on for the engage. It looks like they're gonna try to tower dive this, but it seems like they don't have enough. Tenno takes an extra tower shot. And it seems like it's not gonna be enough. Tenno, Fupi, and all of them are getting.
Fupi does die, and Zen is such a cutie. Might soon join them with 3 gravestones aligned at the Azure Eagles momentarily. But Zen is such a cutie, was able to take a double kill. So I don't even know who won that clash. It was quickly just completely turned around as soon as Zen is such a cutie made it there, and with perfectly timed black shields from Celestial Mikos. And he wants more. He does blow the flash, but no, he will die. And the Tormented Soil takes in as much damage. And Celestial Mikos lives with 28 health right now. And if I'm not mistaken, Zen is such a cutie with 29. Can you imagine the tears that Sivir is shedding? Let's have a replay.
So Tenno manages to dodge the dark matter from Veigar, and Veigar ends up dying to Zen is such a cutie. And in this tower dive, it seems like they are overextending, with Tenno ends up tanking the tower hits. Celestial Mikos tries to take on the tower aggro and successfully does with the flash, but Fupi ends up taking the last tower hit. And in this point, it seems like it was lost, but then surprisingly, Zen managed to win, and Tristan actually comes back, which is really odd because he was so low in HP. And in this, Sivir actually tries pops her ult and tries to go after both of them, but it ends up dying in the process.
That is the power of having utility on your team. You have basically 2 shields on your side, or 3 if you count the Wild Growth and the shield coming in for the Lulu and the Black Shield coming in for the Morgana to negate all those negative spells on you. And that has just been working out in favor, and that's what's been making Azure Eagles be able to pull off all of these risky plays that they have been doing. Practically tower dives throughout the entire game, and they were able to secure themselves the 2nd dragon of the game. And right now, Baron is live.
Yeah, but I think they can just push this advantage into the middle, into the mid turret. Fupi, not sure if he has, I think he doesn't have teleport because he just used it. But I think they can push this advantage if they wanted to. They are so far ahead. There's more than 10k gold lead, and we usually see teams with almost 10k gold lead end up winning games. I think they can win this just through their outright lead and gold.
Exactly. I'm actually surprised that this game is extending as long as it has to, but better to finish it off as best as you can than try to force it.
There is the pause coming along, and we'll have to see how this class goes. I think Skirtle is a little bit out of position in this situation, and Celestial Mikos is gonna be in a setup for a stun. I'm not sure if they're gonna be able to respond as fast in this situation.
Exactly. So right now, as the pause is coming in, I just want to quickly talk about the rotations that Azure Eagles has been going about so far. And I feel like the rotations of Viridis Arcus that they have been doing for the first 2 games, that is coming. But the Tristram will die, and Fupi does manage to survive. And now 3 members of Viridis Arcus are down, and now they are just piling on to Skirtle. He is extremely tanky, but it doesn't even matter at this point because that is a clean ace, nobody dying from Azure Eagles side, and that was phenomenal. And now they're going to take this advantage and push the top inhibitor turret of Viridis Arcus with no regrets.
They can get this inhibitor and maybe even run to Baron if they wanted to, although it's gonna be kinda risky if they run to Baron. They can maybe try to get a few more damage on this turret and then back.
They're opting to actually take the mid inhibitor turret because the wave was pushed out enough, and I feel like they actually prepared that before they made that rotation towards top lane. They did push out that mid lane, so they were able to capitalize on that gap, not just with 1 inhibitor but 2, and now they're backing up, hopefully able to reap the benefits of what they've been doing and secure the Baron for themselves. Let's see if there's going to be, in a way, a desperation play coming in for Viridis Arcus for that Baron, because they do not want it to fall to the hands of Azure Eagles right now.
And right now, Morgana actually got a Zeke's Harbinger, and it's just gonna make Juggermaw even more of a late game monster with that increased 50% crit. With all that crit and percent HP damage, he's just gonna end up melting a lot of the players from Viridis Arcus.
Oh, and Zen is such a cutie, trying to take Fury Warrior one-on-one, and he might actually have been a little bit too aggressive. He even blew his flash for it, and I think that might have been a little bit of a greedy play if he does not even manage to get Fury Warrior. Maybe he might be able to escape, but General Articuno decides to join in the fight, and it is a shutdown that was secured by Ako si Panalo. And one thing I want to actually point out is the itemizations of the Poppy. Granted that the Trinity Force is a core item, I'm honestly surprised about the static shift. I played Poppy before, and I've never played her like this. More often than not, I play her as a tank fighter. So as soon as I complete the Trinity Force, I go out and build her tanky just so she has more sustain when she gets into the fight. How do you feel about this right now?
I think they're trying to go for a more assassin-like build, but I think in this situation, AZE has so many members that are so high priority that he can't really assassinate one person and expect to win the clash right away.
So now we see that they want to take the mid inhibitor turret. They might be able to kill Celestial Mikos. Fupi does manage to kill the Vigor, and he actually is able to stay alive. So double kill coming in for Fupi. Celestial Mikos trying to live as much as possible. He does die to the Chilling Smite, but he will be avenged because 3 members of Viridis Arcus have slain, and Skirtle will soon join them. And Fupi is unstoppable, and the only member left standing is Akos Panalo, and I don't think he will be able to stop the living members of Azure Eagles from possibly taking the Nexus turret.
They even got a banner of command, so this banner minion's gonna take a lot of damage from the turret, and they might be able to push this wave and even get one of the Nexus turrets.
And he is actually daring to kill him. Will he go to the fountain? He does, but he is going to walk away and get a friendly shield from the Lulu. And they're able to take the last inhibitor that was standing for Viridis Arcus. And now they are scrambling on their feet, trying to protect their Nexus turrets as best as possible. Baron has been live for a while now, and Dragon is going to be up in less than 2 minutes.
43-20. I think if Ateneo does win this game, Viridis Arcus should reconsider their picks in the next game, because Skirtle was so great at having the junglers that applied a lot of early game pressure. And in this early game, he was just really busy trying to farm up to level 6. And with Evelyn being invisible to wards, she was able to put pressure that Skirtle couldn't reciprocate. And I think that's the reason why the lanes got snowballed to the way it is now.
And now just look at all the scores right now of Azure Eagles. It is just phenomenal with 9-4-13, 14-3-15. It's just insane, and they are practically all carries in their own right, and they just deleted the Sivir, and now I think they want more blood. The Soul Shackles does land on the Poppy, and General Articuno will die. Although Celestial Nikos does also fall, it doesn't even matter, because I have a feeling this might be the game-ending match. The only member left standing is Tristam, and there's even a teleport coming in from Fupi, wanting to make sure that he gets a kill, but it doesn't even matter, because Viridis Arcus know that they have met their match this game, and they surrender completely.
And so that's the game. It seems like AZE has been getting better consistently through these past games. First game, they were consistently under the entire game. They lost at around 23 minutes, I think.
If I'm not mistaken.
And in the second game, they did slightly better, being around even until late game, wherein they started losing a lot of the trades and clashes and rotations. But now it seems like they were able to apply a lot more pressure early game. They sacrificed Celestial Miko's roaming in order to get that more support to Tenno, and they managed to close out the early, mid, and then they just closed out the game later on with a fantastic finish, being around 20 kills,
that was
higher than their opponent.
At least 20 kills, and I honestly feel like one of the things that was to the advantage of Viridis Arcus was the lack of damage output. Granted, the Vigor did have a lot of damage as the AP carry, but I felt like not enough AD damage was coming in from their team comp. Because if you've noticed, they simply weren't able to kill any of the members of Azure Eagles fast enough, such that they were able to do everything they needed to do. So this tournament, this grand finals, isn't as one-sided as people thought it was going to be. And now we'll say that Azure Eagles did stop the momentum of Viridis Arcus, and we'll see if they have what it takes to do it again and take it to Game 5. So right now, guys, we're going to take another break for around 3 minutes, if I'm not mistaken. And once again, if you have shoutouts or questions, please post it on the chat box. Hopefully, we'll be able to catch them, and we'll see you after the break.